presentation, and then we will invite our other speakers to join the panel. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. I will just, on this topic, touch on some of the key things that we need to be looking at if we need to feed ourselves, let alone feed the rest of the world. At the moment, we all know that it is the rest of the world that feeds Africa, in spite of our young and large population, as well as the fact that incomes here are higher. Normally, those who earn less should be the ones that are more productive to feed those who earn more. But in this case, the reverse is what we see. Now, one of the things that we really need to do is to have less people involved in farming. But what we hear is everybody says more people, more young people need to go into farming. That will not increase our productivity. Burundi, for instance, has one of the highest proportions of populations involved in primary agriculture, and they are about one of the least productive in the world. Whereas the most productive countries in agriculture are those that have between 5 and 15% of their population involved in primary agriculture. So we have got to use more technology. We have got to be more knowledge-based in our approach to agriculture. Talking about knowledge-based, I'll give you an example. You might say application of fertilizer for rice production should be 2 bags of NPK, 4 bags of NPK, 2 bags of urea. But did you find out what was already in the soil before you started determining what needs to go back into that same soil? So you've got to figure this out field by field. It cannot be a general formula for the whole country. How flat is the land? So if you have a very uneven land, what you find is that even when you have applied the right proportion of your agrochemicals or your fertilizers, they will gather in the lowest portions of the land that they can find. And what will then happen is that there are many portions of the land where your chemicals and all of that will be inactive. In 2020, I went to a couple of communities in Niger State to prepare for dry season farming. And it was very interesting. You know, we all talk about climate smart agriculture, and we think that that's some kind of knowledge that will come from research institutions to the villages. But the people in the villages already understand. They were telling me that if they have their way, they will not plant in the rainy season. They will plant only in the dry season, because they figured out that during the dry season, they have more control over the water, whereas during the rainy season, they do more prayers. So you've got to be able to make sure that at the field level, you are working with knowledge, you are working with science, and you are working with mechanization. Now, people will then ask, if all these people move out of agriculture, what's going to employ people? What will employ people you can find at tin can? If you go to Apapa, just open all the containers, make a list of the things in those containers, and find a way of producing those things here. Those will employ a lot more people than agriculture would, and agriculture will be more productive if you have less people doing it using technology. So I've touched a bit on just farm level agriculture. Agriculture is much more complex than that. I have a friend who says that agriculture is more complex than rocket science. And that is true, but I will not go into the details of how that is so. So at the field level, you have all these things you have to deal with to get it right so that you are more productive. But I'll just touch on just one more issue at the field level, then I'll go to a few of the other levels. Now, I don't know whether anybody here can guess the percentage of land under irrigation in Africa. Can anybody help with that? Oh, you tried. It's 5. It's 5%. Does anybody want to guess about India? It's 52%. So when you have a situation where 95% of farming in sub-Saharan Africa is done once a year, and you want to compete with another place where they do it at least 2 or 3 times a year, you can begin to see the kind of challenges you'll be having with productivity and competition. They do 2 times, you do once. Moreover, I just explained how the farmers in Niger State told me that they make more, they reach more yields in the dry season than they can ever reach in the rainy season. So these people are having planting under irrigation twice a year or maybe 3 times a year, and we predominantly are waiting for the rain. Now you might ask why dry season farming will be more productive than rainy season farming. You know, sometimes when you plant, most times when you plant, you are told that after 2 or 3 weeks, apply this or that. So after 2 or 3 weeks, time to apply. Water is the main agent of circulating whatever you're applying. But you are waiting for the rain. What do? If it doesn't rain, you either decide to apply, you are wasting your application, or you don't apply, it means that whatever benefits of application you will not meet. So we need to irrigate more. I don't even want to go into the issue of infrastructure. A few weeks ago, some of my team members visited a community in Adamawa State where we are planning a project, and it was just unbelievable, the state of the roads. So what do we spend a lot of our money on? Logistics. Cost of logistics in Africa is about 10 times more than elsewhere in the world. Who pays for that? The consumer at the end of the day. In our discussions about agriculture, we talk a lot about farmers. Farmers are not the most important element in agriculture. The most important is the consumer, because the consumer pays all the people down the line. And if we are not efficient all the way to the consumer, from the farmer that is just one element, to the transporters that is another element, to the processors. Now come to the processors. Can we guess what the average capacity utilization of a rice mill is in Nigeria? It's low. So we spend all this money establishing all these processing facilities, and they are all operating at lower than the capacity utilization. Now, full capacity utilization of a rice mill, if it is fully utilized, that mill can repay itself in just about 2 years. That's how lucrative milling is. You know, it's the only thing that I can think about that is more profitable is if you get this real license from the CBN that allows you directly to print your own money. It's the only thing that is more profitable. Yet you see a lot of rice mills really struggling. They are struggling because of low access to the products they need to process, high cost of logistics. Sometimes they just decide not to mill, because when they look at the cost of the paddy is so expensive, it has no relationship with cost of production. So when they look at that and they look at what they will spend, say for instance, 800,000 naira just to move 30 tons of rice from Adamawa to Anambra State, they look at it and they look at how much rice is sold for at the market. Of course, a lot of that is influenced by the importation, whether legal or illegal. It's very tough. It's a very tough business out there. So these are the things we have to look at. The last panel talked a little bit about cost of funds and access to funds. And the managing director of business, they mentioned at the concluding end how when you need money, it's difficult to find the money. When you've got to that stage in the business, expand from there. So when we have businesses doing well, and by businesses I mean from the farmers to the logistics service providers to the processors to the distributors, if everybody does well, then obviously the economy of the country will do well, and when we'll be in a very good position to be self-sufficient in food production and then even to export. They are coming for the mic. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that very insightful conversation. I know that you're